Let's go on YouTube. Today we got another deck profile. This time it's of my 23rd place Rescue Ace deck profile from the Pittsburgh Regional. This ended up getting me my invite for the national season, so I no longer have to really worry about it. But this deck was insane. It performed much better than it did last time at the Louisville Regional I ended up going to. The decisions to make certain changes with the main deck really helped, and cutting down the firewall package, or cutting out entirely the firewall package and the super poly package and the extra deck really led me to have a lot more diversity in the extra deck. Albeit weaker to Lightning Storm and Evenly, but I only got Evenly once, and I got Lightning Storm like 2 or 3 times. So yeah, it paid off very well. My 2 losses for the tournament I ended up going X2 were round 1 to ABC Revolution Adventure. I just opened 2 Preventer and 2 Turbulence both games and couldn't play. And then round 8 was the final round to Kash Tira. Game 1 was a good game, but he managed his resources better than me and won the game. Game 2, he ended up playing 2 Lightning Storm after I negated 1. Then Dark Holing me, then activating Scareclaw Planet, and then activating Kash Planet, and it was just all over from there. Then my other 6 matchups, I played against all unique decks again, and it was a pretty widespread. I played against Dragons, Mannadium, pretty much the full spectrum of meta decks minus Pearly and Unchained. I did prep pretty hard for Unchained, never saw it. Also prepped somewhat for Pearly and never saw it, so it was interesting to say the least. Shout outs to people I rode up with and helped tested, especially the people in my car. They were very helpful with like last minute decision making. Shout outs to friend Marshall for writing my deck list for me because I made last minute decisions and didn't have a list on me. Shout outs to my girlfriend for letting me do these types of events and letting me go. And then last shout out to the sponsor for Horseman Comics and Gaming. It's located in Morgantown, WV, if you guys ever come down this way. But yeah, we're going to go on and get into the deck. So to start with the Ace monsters, there's 3 Hydrant, 3 Lifter, 3 Impulse. I know a lot of lists were originally talking about cutting Impulse down to 2 or 1. I think that's just horrendously incorrect. You just really want to see the card game 1. You need 3 of it game 1. It is an easy card to cut when you're going first, games 2 and 3, because you just don't need it as often. But the card also just hard outs the Pearly board. So I felt it necessary to play 3. 2 Turbulence, 2 Preventer. This will never change in my opinion. I tested the list that played 1 of this and I hated it. I played a list that tested 1 of this and hated it. I feel like you just want 2 and 2 for the grind. And then the last Ace monster I played was Fire Engine. I cut Fire Attacker. That card was terrible all weekend at Kentucky. It was horrible. Every locals I played with the deck, I just never wanted it, and I'm glad I cut it. The deck is still 41 because there are some cards you just really don't want to see, but you don't want to trash your consistency too much. So yeah, still at 41, but cutting the attacker was the best decision. For the rescue spells and consistency, there's Emergency, Rhoda, Rescue, Alert, and then HQ. This card's crazy. This card gives you the insane grind game that the deck is known for. I really wish I could theoretically play more, but like it's just such a terrible brick. The worst part about Rescue Ace is by far just the amount of bricks that you're forced to play for Engine, and this being one of them. But it's such a powerful card that when it gets outed that you feel like you just lost, not the match, but you feels like you lost very hard until you can like just beat your opponent in. The 1 Extinguish, the 1 Contain. Never missed Reinforce, never sided Reinforce, never wanted it. I think this ratio is perfect for the spells and monsters. So yeah, and then for more consistency, we got 3 Pot of Prosperity. I wanted to do the Small World Regulus package in the deck, but I never ended up doing it. It's nice that Regulus can both bridge into combo and bridge into a negate if you open full combo and don't get stopped, or you can do it preemptively early. It's really crazy how strong Regulus is in the deck. It's also nice that it triggers Preventer whenever it leaves the field if you detach it as the negate. So going forward, I would probably try to find a way to play Small Worlds. I think the card I would cut would be like I'd cut these Fenrir's for 2 Small Worlds and a Regulus. But I would have to work around with testing more because Fenrir also helps you connect into Regulus because you can use Fenrir, search Fenrir, use Small World to use Fenrir into Regulus into the Hydrant. So there's reason to still play Fenrir in that version. I played it again this weekend for this build. It was fantastic. It conflicted with a couple of non-engine slots, but by and large, every time I summoned it, it won the game on his back. Him and Preventer is just such a crazy strong combination if you get to set up the set 4. That there's not really a lot of decks that can out it, so that's why I played it. Also baffled that both of these cards just didn't get hit on the ban list, but Konami knows better. And then for the non-engine, the rest of it, there's 3 Ash, 3 Nib, 3 Book of Moon, and 3 Imperm. Book of Moon was originally Talents, and in initial testing I loved Talents, but as the metagame progressed into a more Unchained meta, I don't know what it was, but Talents just never seemed to really work for me. I kind of wish it was Thrust and some other, like, just one of the spells or traps to help with that, but Book of Moon overperformed all day. There were several times where I would get Imperm or Veiler, and I got to still just resolve Turbulence or Hydrant, and there were several times where just like the Book of Moon with a combination of Preventer and Fenrir was just strong enough even if I didn't get to set 4. So I'm really, really glad I played Book of Moon. I never missed Talents in any of my matches. I made sure to try to keep note of any time that Talents would have been better in my hand versus Book of Moon, and there wasn't a single instance that it happened. Imperm was okay. It never really came up. Like I've been praising Book of Moon. This card is crazy. We'll see if this continues to the next format, though. Nib was insane all day. Very glad I played it. And then the Ashes, very mediocre into the format, but it has like a very good check-all, and it can turn skip certain play lines if your opponent either gets greedy or just has a bad start. And I wanted the generic. If I was going to play like these 9, then I wanted more generic hand trap as my 9 through 12. So with Fenrir, there's 15 interruptions technically. And then on to the extra deck. The biggest change from my Kentucky profile and this profile is I cut the Firewall engine and I cut the Super Polys. I felt Super Poly was pretty weak into this meta outside of specifically the Unchained matchup, but I didn't want to dedicate 3 to 4 cards in my extra deck and 3 cards on my side to just that. I know it's good against Rogue, but I really wanted to prepare for the big 3 decks. And then the Firewall package just clogged up so much space in the extra deck. I only got Lightning Stormed a handful of times, like my round 8 opponent, but the more generic extra deck came up a lot more than Firewall would have. So to start, there's Link, Karibo, and Anima for the Link ones. I got to Anima several times this weekend. It was great. People just don't respect it. Dark, Hida. Dark came up twice. Once in my Dragon matchup, and once in my Dino matchup. But like, it's very cuttable. It's very like niche. It doesn't get you anything out of the deck either when it's destroyed. It's literally just meant to link climb. But sometimes you could steal something crazy. Like I stole an access code with it once. So IP, I ended up on the IP board like 2 or 3 times just because of certain matchups. It's better to end on IP than it is the Heat Soul. Proxy F, this was, in most profiles, this is the Security Dragon. But I like Proxy F for the sole reason that it's a fire. And it helps you climb into Heat Soul, or Heat Leo easier. If that's what you need. Like if it was Security Dragon, you can't make Heat Leo off of it. It just gives options. You don't use its effect. It's basically just a link to vanilla. This could just be Security Dragon if you prefer it, though. I preferred the Proxy F. Puzzle Mino, the drop-in deleter. I don't play the Ibly line, but I do play this still for another card in the extra deck. Sunlight Wolf. Love the card, based card. One Heat Soul is pretty easy to make. It's just free draw. It does conflict with Prosperity, obviously, but when you don't open Prosperity and you get to just like draw into hand traps or disruption or just more engine, because like you do play 18 and then technically 21 interruptions between the 12 hand traps, 3 Fenrir's, making 15, and then 18 being here and then 21 being here if you have the card in hand. But you do play a lot of interruption for your opponent's turn, so it's nice to have that. Unicorn and Heat Leo, Topologic Trispania. Technically, these two are part of the IP package. Heat Leo is crazy strong. I made it more often than Unicorn, but Unicorn is just there as insurance. Sometimes there's a problematic monster. I did have to shuffle away an Nibiru token once or twice. Access code. No need to praise access code. Avermax was the best addition to the extra deck. It became pretty apparent that if you can out just the Caesar, or you can get to this point on your turn 1 and just like make this and pass, Unchained had an unreasonably hard time to beat this card, especially with IP under it. So Avermax was a concession to playing against Unchained, and I made it like 5 times over the weekend, and it just every time it's against someone, I won the game. Like the Link 4s, both, like every time I summon them, they won. It's like, you know, crazy, but this card was absolutely absurd. And then the card I played for Puzzle Mino was Abyss Dweller, another Unchained concession, but it also had some good utility in other matchups, specifically more roguish ones. But it exists. It's very good, very strong. It's pretty easy to do with Puzzle Mino. So yeah, that's why I played it. It's pretty easy to set up the combo. But that's it for the extra deck. I did not miss the Super Poly cards once. I did not really miss Firewall. Like I wanted it a few games, and you can easily fit it back in here, but I really do like the generic extra deck spread that I have in this. It made some matchups much easier. And then finally, the side. So the start, we have 3-Dimension Shifter. Dimension Shifter was an interesting choice in my opinion. It was kind of like a hot take, and trying to prove to myself that it's very good in the deck. I sided it twice over the weekend and drew it every time I sided it. And it did win me one game that I drew it, but it lost me the other, just because I couldn't put the rescue monsters in grave. Typically that doesn't matter, and if you go first and the deck just auto-loses to Shifter, then what you can do is like your normal combo with Airlifter, where you banish all the cards out of your grave to summon Turbulence and Preventer. You'll usually not have a card in grave at the end of your combo, so you have your set 4, and then you can Shifter. So it had some really good niche uses. There were a lot of times this weekend I just wish it was Druisworm, solely because it's more generic and much easier to play. So going forward, I would probably just make these 3 Druisworms, or 2 Druisworms and a Magnamut. But I do definitely wish that these were Druisworms. Gamma Seal card was just crazy, overperformed. There was an argument to play the Fire Kaiju Dogaran just for the fire synergies with things like Sunlight Wolf, being able to like put it back in hand and whatnot, but I wanted the lowest attack point possible just to guarantee I can run over it. 3 Cosmic Cyclone. This was for Unchained and just trap decks. Being able to banish all their cards is very important. 3D Barrier. At Kentucky, this was sided every single match. Here in Pittsburgh, it was never sided. Like I sided it round 8 just because I had nothing else to put in, and I wanted some cards out going first. So this was very bad. I'm not sure how much it'll see play into the future, but for now, I would like to cut it. And then the last 3 I played were Solemn Judgment. Sorry for the glare. The lighting in here is absolutely horrendous, but the last 3 cards were Solemn Judgment. This was just to protect for the Evenly and Lightning Storm. Going forward, I'd also probably just cut this and play more generic cards. I kind of want to just like to min-max my side deck to be able to have the highest impact on the game state with these, and then just to protect with Lightning Storm and Evenly on this. So I hated that I always had 3 cards going in no matter what going first, and I feel like that is just not good side logic. And my side patterns did reward me on certain ways for this side deck pattern, or this side deck, but going forward I would change this a little bit. I do like how it overall performed. And that is it for the deck profile. Bit of a long one, but I wanted to give some explanation on cards. Now that I have my invite, I will still be attending other regionals, but I will not be playing decks like this. I'll probably be playing things like Salmon Grape, which if you guys would like to see a profile of Salad now that we have 3 Gazelle. This is the first time I ever played the deck with 3 Gazelle, so I'm very excited. Leave it in the comment section down below. Let me know what you think of the list. There were some weird choices, and there were some good choices that ended up paying off. I think that going forward, this is probably my meta deck of the format, unless Salad is like the next tier 1 deck, which I really don't think it is. But yeah, thank you for watching. Remember to comment and subscribe. Remember to check out Four Horsemen Comics and Games, their TCG player store, and if you're in the area, come down and see us. And again, shout outs to everybody, especially my girlfriend, for letting me do this. Thanks for watching. Peace, YouTube.